Hi, everyone. So I wanted to share a reflection of Marcus Garvey's quote: "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." Hey, everybody. So August 17th was Marcus Garvey's birthday, as many of us know. And as I was reflecting on, again, one of his favorite quotes that says, "A people without the knowledge of their history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." I really wanted to dive a bit more into what that means. And I did some notes based on my research. So we know that has roots. A tree, all trees have roots. However, when you cut the roots off of a tree, or if somehow there's no way that tree can be sustained, that tree is eventually going to wither and it's going to die. So the roots of a tree, it brings nutrients, it brings food, it brings water, and it really just sustains the tree because it is through the roots that photosynthesis happens, right? And when photosynthesis happens, that's how the tree is able to grow. The roots carry all the nutrients from what it's getting from the soil all the way up into the branches, into the leaves. That is how the tree is able to flourish and grow. So when I think about, what Marcus Garvey said, that a people without the history, so if we don't know our history, if we don't know our origin, if we don't know our culture, we have to understand what he was saying to us, that we're basically like a tree without its roots. There's no room for us to grow. There's not going to be any growth. There's not going to be any sustainability. There's not going to be any growth, not only in us, but there's not going to be any growth in our children to come, because we don't know our history, we don't know our origin, and we don't know our culture. Now, we live in Canada. I live in Canada, even though I travel back and forth to the US very often. And what I want to say is that if we leave it up to the education system to teach us and to teach our children what we ourselves should be teaching them at home, many times, unfortunately, it is going to fail. The reason why I say that is because many of us have gone through the education system and we were taught nothing about our origin. We were taught nothing about our history or our culture. Now, I'm talking about the Black history, origin, and culture. We might have been taught some things, of course, but we weren't taught the in-depth things that we need to know in order for us to basically, go deep into the people that contributed to Canada as Black Canadians. Now, after the past 5 years, after the pandemic, or maybe a bit before the pandemic, we've been diving a bit more into that, right? We've been going deeper into our teachings. One of the things I want to say to the community is that it's up to us to teach our children, our godchildren, our nieces and our nephews. The teaching happens in the home, and the systems in the society. So systems are here to actually build on what the foundation is. So whatever the foundation that we're teaching in our home, systems come to build upon that foundation. Systems are not meant to teach our children. Systems are not meant to teach us. It is up to us as a Black community. It is up to us to teach our children and to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and teaching ourselves as well, because many of us do not know a lot about our history or our origin and our culture. Again, because unfortunately we were not taught. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but I'm leaving this message because as I reflect on the teachings of Marcus Garvey and how important it is, and as I think about a tree and the roots, you have to understand that what he was saying is that basically, if we are people without roots, you have to understand a tree cannot flourish, it cannot grow without roots. So if he's telling us that we don't know he's not telling us, he's basically just saying a people without the knowledge of their history, right, of their origin and culture, is like a tree without roots. How can we grow? How can we flourish? How can we become our best selves if we don't even know where we're coming from? Because we've been taught certain things. We've been taught that we come from people of enslaved, and yes, enslavement did happen, but we come from a generations of kings and queens. We come from a generation of powerful people, our ancestors. We stand on the back of our ancestors who advocated for our rights. A lot of what we have today is due to our ancestors. And unfortunately, you know, we're not taught. I'm not even sure if many of us were taught. Or leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this message. I just basically took the due diligence because I'm like, you know what? August 17th, it passed, and I reflected. I said, you know what? I want to really go back to his quote. I really want to go back to what he was saying. And I want to really understand more about what his thoughts were. What was his thoughts when he said this quote? And let me go back to my notes to see if I missed anything. Give me one sec. So what I wrote here is that the process of photosynthesis can never occur because it is through the roots that nutrients travel, providing stability, food, water, and even storing food so that the tree can survive. When the roots of a tree are removed, that tree becomes unstable and unhealthy. And if you are to cut the roots of a tree, that tree will eventually be damaged. The roots are the grounding and the foundation. It is what holds the structure of the tree together. The roots are the stabilizer. Therefore, as we reflect on Marcus Garvey's quote, we must understand the roots of a tree and the purpose it holds. Without the roots, a tree can never survive. So that's a part of my notes that I wrote because I was doing, again, you know, sometimes we got to go back, and I did write some information here. So I wanted to speak to us because many of us are people of faith. And what I did put in my notes, I put, as a person of faith, we must use wisdom. It doesn't mean I pray and I attend church and I do nothing to teach my children about the history and origin of my culture. Too often we hide behind our faith and we say we're going to trust God. But as parents and guardians, we are responsible for the teachings of our children. We are responsible to teach our kids about our history, origin, and culture. It is not the society's responsibility. It is not systems. Systems are created to build upon what we have taught our children in our homes. The first teaching that happens is in our homes, and then society and the systems come and build upon the foundation. We are to equip our children to go out into the world, and once we equip them, they will teach they will hold on to those teachings. They will know our history, origin, and our culture. And I did add some notes here at the end. Yet, how can we as a people ourselves teach something that we have not taken the time or intentionality to even learn? Okay, so that's where I will end. And I hope that you will reflect on this message. And I'm going to say the quote again by Marcus Garvey. A people without knowledge of their past, history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. And just reflect on that quote. Reflect on a tree without roots. Trees don't exist without roots. So understand his thought process behind what he said. All right, everybody, take care.